Hey, hold on. Oh, wait, hold on. I'll check it in a moment. Let me get this intro done. Hey, everybody. Bandicoot Commando here, and welcome back to Marvel Rivals. Last time, I read Doreen's second lore story, the BFFFs. Basically, in this story, Doreen and Tippy were invited to the Hellfire Gala on Krakoa. And it was there that meeting Rocket and his little pet, Amazing Baby. I need to look up and see who Amazing Baby is, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, that little thing on his hat is his pet, and I want to know more about it. Anyway, and Jeff as well. Jeff was part of it. But when they went into the jungles to follow after Tippy and Baby, they found Psylocke with her wolf Logan, and Logan was dying because after they were separated, Logan did everything he could to find Psylocke, and according to according to her, he followed a man in red, and this is referring to either Deadpool or maybe even Daredevil, but I'm pretty sure it's Deadpool. And somehow Logan found his way into the present, or at least in the present time of Krakoa, which would be in 2099, and was able to find Psylocke on Krakoa. But all of the traveling had taken its toll on him. But Doreen gets an idea that they can save Logan by resurrecting him. They would have to add his memories into Cerebro on Krakoa in order for the resurrection protocols to take effect. And Emma gives approval to it, and what do you know? It worked. And as Rocket and Doreen left to head back to the beach to celebrate, it mentions that there was techno-organic matter growing on one of the portal doorways, which was signaling Ultron's arrival. Uh-oh, big trouble coming for them. I know. So, today, we're gonna read Star-Lord's lore. Peter Quill. Peter Quill lives to dazzle his foes on the battlefield with his signature swagger, as his element guns paint arcs of devastation. His acrobatic moves sail through the sky with unrivaled style. With performances this spectacular, it's no wonder that Star-Lord is so legendary. Yeah, I got a couple of skins. So obviously this is based on how he looks in the movies, Chris Pratt. A trap isn't a trap if you know the trap is trying to trap you. It's a face-off. The Lion's Mane, which you would be able to unlock from the event, the season event from to celebrate like the Chinese New Year thing. The Lion's Mane. The majestic lion soars with auspicious energy, reigning over the mountains. As 1,000 stars illuminate the universe, casting a celestial glow upon the land, heralding the arrival of spring. I don't really want to use this that much, though, because it feels like a seasonal thing. And then you got the jovial star. Don't yet. Face it, I rule. I love space. Down on Earth, my life was a nightmare. Down there, you wouldn't look at me twice. Up there, I'm living the dream. I'm the legendary Star-Lord. And this was shortly after, as it says, first appears on 2014. This was shortly after the first movie came out, and what a smashing hit it was. And there's these two, which I'll eventually get. Peter Quill. Half human, half alien, all awesome. That's how Peter Quill, the space outlaw called Star-Lord, would probably describe himself. And as leader of the spacefaring heroes known as the Guardians of the Galaxy, he saved the universe enough times to actually live up to his legends. At Shuri's request, Star-Lord led a scouting mission to the surface of the symbiote planet Clintar. As the Guardians made their approach, their ship was disabled by a mysterious force, leaving Star-Lord and his crew stranded on a hostile world nearing the brink of annihilation. Quantum Slingshot. If you had to crash, thought Peter Quill, might as well do it in the middle of maybe 1,000 other spaceships. Makes it easier to find parts at least. That's what Rocket was supposed to be doing, and maybe Groot too. But Quill wasn't too sure about Groot. He had kind of wandered off in the direction of the jungle that bordered the ship graveyard. For all Quill knew, he was communing with the local daisies and dahlias. Grill. Quill and Groot quarrel. Anyway, Quill hoped Groot wasn't anywhere near close to the fire spreading through the ship graveyard. The flames weren't coming close to the Milano, thankfully, which had churned up a good furrow of the earth and scrap metal during its highly controlled and perfectly executed emergency landing. So, since he had pulled off a perfect landing after Rocket had screwed something up, Quill thought he should probably congratulate himself for making sure the Milano wasn't going to be burned by creating an excellent fire break behind it. Not that Rocket would ever give him credit, nor would Groot ever notice. Man, Quill said, it's not easy being a leader. He said this while sighting down the barrel of one element gun at an approaching symbiote. This was the downside of crashing in a spaceship graveyard on the planet Clintar. Lots of symbiotes who showed up to the new crash site with an appetite. He was picking them off as fast as he could, but even Star-Lord could only take them down so fast, and more of them started to show up with each passing second. Quill was starting to resent Rocket for crashing the ship in the first place. On the other hand, what good did that do? Now Rocket was looking for parts, which was the right thing to do if he wanted to make up for his mistake. Accountability, Quill believed, was a big part of successful teamwork. He picked off a trio of symbiotes clawing over the top of a huge amalgam of Skrull ship parts just to the north of the Milano. He had seen some of these critters on Earth and elsewhere in the galaxy, but not like these. Apparently, if they bonded to humans, they become sort of human. But these, oh boy, they were bounded to all kinds of aliens that even Peter Quill, who had been to more planets than he had hot meals, could recognize. And none of them seemed to like humans very much, to judge from how they kept trying to claw or chomp or shred him. An alert went off inside the Milano around him. Quill dropped into the ship just in time to catch a symbiote coming up through the hatch. He popped it with both element guns, but not before it had gotten all the way in and wrapped a barbed tentacle around his leg. Swearing in every language he knew, he blew the tentacle apart and limped over to slam the hatch shut. His leg hurt like a Flarkin's kiss on the way back up to the top of the Milano's hull, but pain had to wait. Quill was going to protect his ship to the end. A big explosion lit up the far end of the ship graveyard, over by a cluster of ancient buildings that rose up from the edge of the jungle. Looks like the fires reached a ship with something combustible on board, Quill thought. Bits of flaming wreckage rained down around the buildings and nearer to the edge of the jungle. Most of the symbiotes abandoned their siege of the Milano and took off toward the fire, which suited Quill just fine. It was a whole lot easier to fix a spaceship when you didn't have a horde of monsters trying to eat you, or whatever they were trying to do. He shot at them a little more while they were running off, then tried to get a hold of Rocket on the comm. Interference responded, which could have been background radiation or some kind of emission from the massive celestial corpse floating around in near Clintar orbit, or anything else really. Rocket was incommunicado, and Groot, well, Quill never knew how to get in touch with Groot. Guess I'll keep waiting until they come back, he thought as he watched the fire for a minute to see whether it was coming his way. When it wasn't, he went below to see what he could do about getting this bucket of bolts back into orbit. A couple of hours later, he was putting the finishing touches on his work when he heard noises from a nearby wreck. He scrambled up to the top of the Milano's hull and pointed element guns in that general direction. But instead of more symbiotes, he saw a Rocket scrambling over the wrecked ships, with Groot right behind him. "Quill!" Rocket shouted. "Give us a hand!" Groot was carrying a huge armload of scrap tech just behind the raccoon. "What? You took some time to go scavenging?" Quill asked. "What is all this garbage?" "It's not garbage, you flarking dolt," Rocket said. "We fought like 100 million of those monsters to get it, and now this scut is going to get us out of here." "Oh, I got that figured out already," Quill said. "Everything's all tuned up in the engines except for..." Rocket was already looking. "Except you don't have any shielding over the plasma exchangers." Quill pointed out at the wrecks. "Plenty of shielding out there, genius." "And how were you going to get enough thrust to get us off planet if you diverted all the power to the hyperspace drive?" Rocket put one hand over his eyes, dropping some of his various bits he collected. Quill was used to Rocket thinking he was dumb. It was part of their relationship now, but this time he had an answer. He pointed up. "What?" Rocket demanded. Quill stabbed a finger toward the sky. Rocket looked. "See that?" Quill prompted him. "The dead Celestial orbiting up there." "Yeah, I see it," Rocket said. "So what?" "I am Groot," Groot said. "That's right," Quill said. "A way out. Well, sort of. More like a coordinate switcheroo. See, the reason I routed all the power to the hyperspace drive is that we can pair the Milano with the Celestial's remains into the quantum whatever. The body will get trapped down here, the Milano goes up, then we hyper jump the Flark out of here, and we never have to come back to this hellhole ever again." "I am Groot." We can repair the regular thrusters whenever we get around to it." "You're kidding," Rocket said. "Quantum swap with the corpse of a Celestial? That won't work. You know how many conditions need to be..." "Not since we got that nega energy replicator from that doozy of a deal on Hala. Remember how Marvel and Rick Jones did it with the nega bands? Take a look around." Quill spread his arms. "Rocket, old pal, tell me what else we need that we can't find here." "So, Marvel and Rick Jones. That's, Marvel refers to the original Captain Marvel before Carol took over, and Rick Jones, I think, is Doc Samson. Let me look that up real quick. Isn't he Doc Samson? Yeah, he's a sidekick and friend to the Hulk, and also to Captain America, Marvel, Oh, okay, so he's done a lot. I usually know him for being with the Hulk, though, but he's not Doc Simpson. Okay. Oh, that would be cool if Rick Jones was playable. Anyway, back to the story. Rocket was looking at Quill's work again, this time with a more appraising eye. Uh-huh, he said. So you're saying you're gonna build a temporary pocket of negative zone as a terminal to stabilize the quantum displacement. Quill, you've had a lot of scuzzy ideas in our time, but this one's actually... What was it in that you Earth folks said? What was it that you Earth folks said? Even a broken clock is correct once a day? Twice. Then it ain't half bad. As compliments go, that's pretty weak. But coming from you, I'll take it. Plus, it has the added benefit of smashing the Celestial's corpse down on these symbiotes, who I have to say are not so good with hospitality. I am Groot. His massive companion dropped the junk in his arms and put a kind hand on his shoulder. Quill nodded at Groot, then shot Rocket a look. Now that was a real compliment. Only problem is, Rocket said, if you don't have some kind of force dampening matrix powered up when we swap, we'll all get to orbit torn into pieces. But that's totally cool because I just so happen to have, by which I mean Groot, just so happened to have dropped a piece of equipment that will do the job. What? Incredulous, or incredulous, Quill looked from Rocket to Groot and back. How did I know? I didn't, Rocket guffawed. I totally got it for another reason, but it will work here. I am Groot, Groot said. You had help from a friendly vine, Quill echoed. Sorry, Groot, but that's the most far-fetched thing I have heard since we got here. Nothing about this planet is friendly. I am Groot. Quill turned to Rocket. Seriously? I saw it, Rocket said. The native flora helped him. Groot's a diplomat, if you didn't know. Quill chose not to process that idea at this moment. When a horde of symbiotes might show up again at any moment, while they were trying to use the orbiting remains of a celestial as a quantum anchor to swap themselves into orbit. Okay, he said. Groot's a diplomat, and you just happened to pick up the one piece of equipment I didn't think of that's going to save all of our lives while I was busy holding off 100,000 million symbiotes to get our ship ready for its possibly final voyage. Quill waited, hoping he sounded appropriately frustrated. But either Rocket had missed the sarcasm or just didn't care, because all he said was, "Lucky, right? Here, let's get it hooked up." Quill sighed. For the second time that day, he was thinking about how hard it was to be a leader. With an aligned goal, the remaining hard work went rather smoothly. Quill rushed back into the Milano as Rocket gave the new system a final check. Time usually flies faster in the negative zone, but switching with our dance partner may take what feels like a while. Oh yeah, totally. And that second big button is here because... Quill's voice trailed off as his train of thought slowed. To exit the negative zone from the other end, genius. One to get in, one to get out. Like those nega bands. Unless you want to stay there and watch the time stream collapse from that cosmic backwater. Rocket rolled his eyes, then slapped on the first button. Boom! Almost instantaneously, the Milano disappeared from the dark planet, leaving only a perfect shape of her landing pads and side wings on the gooey surface. And just as fast as she disappeared, there she was, against the endless pitch black of the negative zone. and the enormous body of the deceased ancient celestial. Even with all they had seen across the galaxy, the crew felt they shouldn't be looking upon the vibrant corpse, awestruck by the lifeless form of a god in front of their insignificant speck of a spaceship. I am Groot. Say, this headless hunk in the big dome of nowhere, ain't they perfect for each other? Rocket decided to light up the cockpit. Do we know if decapitation kills these things? Because the Milano says it's alive. A string of flashing readings on the interface lighted Quill like a ham in the microwave. And as if in response to him, the corpse made a single twitch. I am Groot! Groot was unsettled. No, it didn't. You're seeing things. Besides, I'm sure it's just the quantum swap having some residual effects. Probably because it's so big. Yeah. Rocket's feigned confidence waned. And I don't want to stick around long enough to find out, Peter pressed. Hit the second button, Rocket. Not yet. Have to recharge the engine. Just hit it. Something is happening over there. Quill tried and failed to ignite the regular thruster out of desperation. Quit it, Quill, or we'll be stuck in the negative zone. There's worse things here than whatever your imagination is thinking you saw. And right on cue, the giant body started to shake violently, a wriggling mass forming within the husk of the Celestial. I am Groot! Groot pointed at the corpse, panicked in his 3 words. Yes, I believe you now. Yeah, something's definitely moving on its chest. Those must be what the scanner picked up. On the giant's decayed chest plates, Groot and Rocket spotted a person-shaped symbiote, as well as a glowing cocoon of some sort. But it didn't stop Milano's every single alarm from screaming. That does it! Quill leaned over and smashed on the first button. No, Quill, you... Boom! The ship was already back where they started before Rocket could finish, fitting squarely into the impression they left on the ground. You got any more bright ideas to waste our time? Rocket seemed down. I am Groot. All right. As the captain, you have to make unpopular decisions sometimes. And we're still alive, so you're very welcome. Quill stood up, looked around the cockpit. Whoever that symbiote was, they're not the same as the natives, and that golden egg thingy, if that's who I think it is, they shouldn't be there. But I think we got some other friends around. Who cares? Come on, Groot. Let's go find some friendly vines. Maybe they can be a better captain of the ship. Rocket headed to the hatch door. You think so? Then go ahead. When we're back on Nowhere, I'm telling everyone that I saved our lives, including those 2 up there, Quill yelled out to the back of his crewmates. But they didn't stop. Whatever. Quill slapped the arm of his chair. I know. Quill slapped the arm of his chair. Dude, being the leader is so hard, he thought. But when he looked up to the sky, the legendary Star-Lord smiled. The giant corpse of the Celestial remained in the sky, with golden light shining from its chest, like a lighthouse in a raging black sea. Well, that does it for that story. So no doubt, this is connecting to Adam Warlock's story, where Adam crash-landed on the Celestial head and is having his encounter with Null. But this at least means that there's a chance that the gang can get Adam with them, and who knows, maybe Adam can help somehow. But it kind of sucks that they did not get off of Clintar. But now that just brings the bigger question on how they got off, because there's lots of dialogue from Star-Lord, at least some dialogue to him, to Black Panther, of him saying how he and the gang barely escaped. Unless, of course, the gallery image and yeah, the gallery image in here gives an explanation or not. Alright, well, that will do for this episode of Marvel Rivals. Join me next time as we read Storm's lore story. That is it, and I will see you guys next time.